to their futures. Soldiers speak out. 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 Soldiers speak out.
Welcome to the Veterans Hour, a locally produced program by the Veterans for Peace, the Rachel Corrie Chapter 109 in Olympia, Washington. My name is Dennis Mills, an Army veteran 1966 through 69. Our programs are produced here in the studio of Thurston Community Television, TCTV, and scheduled for viewing on Channel 22 on Mondays at 5 p.m. and also on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Veterans for Peace is a humanitarian and educational nonprofit organization whose members are veterans, but also associate members who are not veterans. We all believe 5 goals of VFP, and they are toward increasing the public awareness of the cost of war, to restrain our government from intervening overtly and covertly in the internal affairs of other nations, to end the arms race and to reduce and eventually eliminate nuclear weapons, to abolish war as an instrument of national policy, and to seek justice for veterans and victims of war. This program will touch on most of those goals that I just stated by my guest and friend, Douglas Mackey, who is also an associate volunteer or associate member of VFP and an Afghan Youth Peace Volunteer elder, and I'll have him explain that in just a moment. Douglas is one of the main organizers behind the Global Days of Listening, and he will help our viewing audience to better understand what is happening in Afghanistan. Douglas, welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
How did you become involved in this exciting international event and become revered as what I've referred to as an Afghan Youth Peace Volunteer elder?
I can address your first question, and I'm not sure I can answer the second one, but I'll give it a try. Several years ago, was working with VFP on a memorial for civilian losses in Iraq, also on the Arlington Northwest.
That's the Arlington Northwest project that we've done over the years.
Right, and as a result of the Arlington Northwest memorial, the memorial to civilians of Iraq emerged. And in working on that, I met one of the Iraq soldiers who had returned after he'd made the decision that he couldn't put bullets in his gun, Josh Stieber. And Josh is the one that introduced me to the Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers through some videos of theirs that he had seen while he was sort of researching Afghanistan through YouTube and over the internet. And so I met the Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers through VFP, through Josh Stieber, and within a couple days, my heart was won over, and a number of us VFP folks with some collaboration from Fellowship of Reconciliation, we were out on the street vigiling 24/7 with these young people from Bamiyan province.
Now, you've been involved in a variety of activities since that time, and we'll get into that in a minute, but we're about to see a 3-minute video clip of a very unusual walk that was held by the Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers recently in the streets of downtown Kabul. And they were dressed in white with young women wearing sky blue veils, very similar to the color that you have there. And the young men, the same color neck scarves. And the Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers carried a sky blue and white banners proclaiming peace is a prerequisite for progress. And they were seeking to end wars in their country. And they've had wars for how long, Douglas?
Oh, gosh. Well, consistently, 36, 37 years. Well, and then
and most of the youth that we talk with have only known war.
Right.
Well, let's watch the 3-minute clip of an incredible walk that they did, the Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers walking in Kabul.
حیاتی است از چند سال بدین سو در حد توان خویش تلاش نمودند تا نهالهای صلح و دوستی را در هر گوشه و کنار این کشور بنشانند. این اعتراض امروز که در سطح بسیار خرد هست فردا میتونه منجر به موج گسترده‌ای از اعتراضات در افغانستان شود.
تشکر زنده باشین.
ما واقعا خوشحال بودیم از اینکه امروز دوستای ما آمدن در کنار ما قرار گرفتن.
سلامت باشین.
Douglas, as we've watched that film, I've noted that one person that you've made the acquaintance of is Kathy Kelly. And Kathy Kelly asked an interesting question. Why did you choose sky blue? And one of the people replied, because it shows that there's just one sky over all of us. And I thought that was unique. And she wrote to us that although they came from different ethnicities and various provinces, they walked shoulder to shoulder, about 40 of them, on a bright, warm day. And that was on March 19th.
Actually, they did the walk. They moved it up a couple days.
Oh, they did? Okay.
They did to March 17th.
Okay.
And it's, we still doing some research to see if there's anything like this that's ever happened before. As our viewers may be familiar with, recently in the streets of Kabul, there have been marches where people are raising their fists and incredibly upset following the deaths of the 9.
Well, a matter of fact, they held a candlelight commemoration for remembering the children that were recently killed in Afghanistan. And they also followed this with a ceremony of planting saplings as a symbol of their dedication to a nonviolent future. And their compassion really extends beyond the Afghanistan young people into other lands, as you have found out in working with them. They connected with what is called the Global Days of Listening to Nonviolent Options. And that was a 24-hour Skype communication, which you really were behind a lot of that and hosted on the first day of Afghanistan's New Year, now Raz, but I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it correctly. Tell us how all these activities came about, because I know that you spent a good 24 hours making it possible for people to watch and to hear.
This day of listening is really the fourth global day of listening, the third day of listening that's in this pattern that was established back in September of last year. And it really is an outgrowth of their activities. The Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers, they've inspired it. It's been really, really nice to be able to do something constructive. When the people in the United States and in Australia and Sweden and England, around the globe, I think we've connected with 30 different countries now.
30 different countries
Yep.
that we're talking with our young people in Afghanistan.
Right, over the period of these last four, we're calling them Skype-a-thons. And so when people have a chance to hear one another, something happens, something remarkable happens that warms another person's heart. So many people, the latest polls show that in this country and in many other countries that are involved with the occupation, over half of the people are not in support of the U.S. occupation in Afghanistan. The same is true of the occupation in Iraq. But to be able to hear the voices and see the people and come to know them as human beings very similar to us, it solidifies people's commitment to work harder to change the minds of more people in this country so that we can begin to affect the government that makes the decision to stay there. I think that's the hope of many of the people that are listening, that they can introduce somebody else to the Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers.
Well, I remember one very touching moment, Douglas, when we were together. It must have been close to midnight. You were recording on Skype and then live stream and helping people to see some of the video clips and to hear some of the things. But we were part of listening in on a moving conversation with Abdullah, who is now 15 years old. I believe we started when he was almost 13. And as a 15-year-old, he has been corresponding with Elisa.
Elisa?
Elisa?
Elisa.
Elisa.
It is Elisa, yeah.
Who is also a teenager, but in the United States. And Elisa first saw Abdullah on a YouTube video. And I think it would be fun for our listening audience, viewing audience, to hear that first clip that Abdullah, who's now a bit older than that clip, what prompted her to become involved. So let's watch that video of Abdullah.
عبدالله صبح بخیر.
صبح بخیر.
عبدالله شما خبر داری که چی وقت تولد شدی؟
نه خبر ندارم.
کجا زندگی میکنی؟
در افغانستان بامیان.
با چی کار میکنی؟
شاگردم، دهقانم، دکاندار.
خب شما در زندگی خود چی آرزو داری؟
راستی دوستی.
شما چه فکر میکنی که دوستی و راستی را در زندگی خود پیدا میتونی؟
نمیدونم.
And in that clip, he looks a couple years younger, and definitely, and he sounds it, and he just basically says what he does, that he's going to school and that he's helps with the family store, and very simple, very short.
Well, but that really tweaked an interest with Elisa, and she started an email back and forth exchange with Abdullah. But it was the Global Day of Listening that for the very first time, Abdullah knew that he was going to get to talk with Elisa. And I have a very, very short clip, but challenging in the fact that he was so excited that he was going to get to talk with Elisa during this time. So let's just watch this. It's only about 12 seconds.
الایسا ما میخوایم که همراه شما چای بخورم. I cannot wait to speak with you.
And the other function that that short video had was that it was posted at the livewithoutwars.org website, and many people began to anticipate this conversation that was probably going to happen between Elisa and Abdullahi. And do you remember, we were fussing around between computers, and this plaintive young, high school student woman's, girl's voice comes on, hello, well, and people are talking, and you just barely could hear it. And I'd like to kind of pick up parts of this, if that's okay, and share that.
Oh yes, let's play a portion of that, because I remember how choked up both of us got as the two of them started communicating together and learning about each other and the cultures that they came from. And this is an opportunity for us to hear that audio recording of their conversation that meant a lot to us.
We're on with Elisa.
Hello.
Salam Elisa. This is Abdullah. Hello, how are you?
Salam, my friend. It's really nice to speak with you. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm very happy to hear your voice.
Yes, me too. I was really glad, and it's really exciting for me to speak with you for the first time.
You too.
You speak English
What is the
very
time
well.
now? What is the time
In
now?
my country, it's 12:30 a.m.
You should sleep well.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
You should be sleeping now.
You should be sleeping now.
Oh yes, I should be sleeping now, but I don't have school tomorrow, so I'm not sleeping at this time.
او صبا مکتب نمیره از این خاطر میتونه که نیم شب.
بسیار خوب. ما بسیار خوشحال هستیم که همراه شما گپ بزنیم امروز.
Abdullah has really been looking forward to this moment, Elisa, and he has been practicing in his mind his English, and I can see the excitement, and he's wondering what to say, Elisa, so maybe you can start by asking him some questions.
Oh, of course. Well, first of all, I want to say that he speaks very well, and he has a good accent. And so I want to ask him, let me think. Also, I don't know what to say, but let me think.
او میزنی لاجش ما خوب است. او هم نمیدونه که باید چی بگه.
تشکر. Thank you.
شما سوال کنی از او یا او سوال کنه؟
ما از سوال میکنم که برای جنگ در افغانستان چی فکر میکنی؟
فامیل.
How is your family?
My family is very good. I told my family about this day and about you, and they said it's very good that I was writing to you. And my mom said hello, and we're all saying hello to everyone there in Afghanistan.
Thank you. Yes, we go.
You're welcome.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have one young sister. She's 12 years old.
Yeah, quite khurt 12 ساله.
Yes, I saw her picture.
Yes. She is very big now. This picture, we have grown more.
میگه کلان شده هر دویشان.
Hello, Cynthia Dennis from
Wow.
New York State, United
ما
States.
دیر از یک به حال شاندیم و بسیار خوشحال بدیم پقانه را هم بالا کردیم بسیار خوشحال بدیم که زیاد نفر هم آماده بود
Abdullah says that we had tree planting event yesterday, and this is in celebration of the Afghan New Year, as well as a statement of non-violent options to rebuild the future of Afghanistan. And he was very happy that he could do that. And the boys and the youth blew up balloons, and the students of the school were happy with the multicolored balloons. And Abdullah was happy that there were international friends who are now with us in Kabul. There are 24 of them now, and together with them and the students of the school, we had a good morning planting different types of trees. Abdullah adds that in the evening yesterday, we held a candle vigil too.
برای قربانی های جنگ که کسایی که در افغانستان کشته شده از دست نیتو یا امریکا یا از طالب
We held the candle vigil in grief for those who have been killed in war, whether by the US, NATO, or the Taliban.
Oh, it's very wonderful. I'm really glad that you've done all of these wonderful things, and I'll be joining you in solidarity. I've spoken to my friends, and I've asked all of my friends to pray for you, all in Afghanistan, and all people in the world who are suffering from war. And I hope through my efforts and through the efforts of my friends, we will spread your message on to as many people as possible.
So one day we do hope to have you here.
شما ما هم آرزو داریم که شما بیاین بسیار خوشحال میشیم اگر دو پارک دیدن کنیم کلیم با هم
Abdullah says he also looks forward to meeting you in Afghanistan.
I am very happy to see you on that park.
I will. Okay.
I will be very happy to see you on that park.
Yes, I would also be very glad, and in the future, if God allows, I would love to go there to meet all of you, and especially my friend Abdullah, and I would be very happy to go to this park and meet all of the people there in Afghanistan.
لازم میگه که او بسیار خوش میشه اگر فرصت داشت که اینجا بیا و کتی همه شما ملاقات کنه مخصوصا رفیقی خود لای
ما هم آرزو دارم که شما افغانستان برین که ما هم ببینیم شما را
Yes, Vice is resounding what the youth here in Afghanistan really hope for a better future, so they can make friends from all over the world, like young people everywhere, to connect with one another. So Elisa, we do look forward to that day. Thank you so much for taking your late night after midnight off to speak to all of us here.
You are all very welcome, and I hope the best for peace in Afghanistan and opportunities for us to connect, no matter what country we live in the world, that we can all connect. We are all human. We are all youth. We can be friends. And it was really, it's my pleasure to speak with you all. And I'm really happy to get a chance to do so. I'm blessed.
Thank you so much for
Elisa,
being with us. Go ahead.
Douglas, you were up throughout much of the night, if not all of the night, providing communications and live stream video support for the Afghan youth and people in a lot of different countries. What did you learn from that experience?
You want to get as much sleep ahead of time as you can. It was the first time that I was managing the live stream, and I certainly appreciated the help
Well, tell us about live stream, because that's a fairly new technology for both of us.
Yeah, it's amazing how long some of these things have been around, but it's a website that you can, for free, broadcast from, and then they sell advertisements as people discover. Every 15 minutes, a little 15, 20, 25-second advertisement will go over the top of your live stream. Although when you play the live stream back later, those same ads come on, but you don't miss any of it. It picks right up where it was before. So at livestream.com/The People's Journey, people can go and listen to the last half of the day of the Global Day of Listening and all of the day after listening conversation. So it's a website that allows people to broadcast their own television programs, basically.
Well, what did you hear this time around on the Global Day of Listening? Because I know you've been part of that experience before. What things came out and stuck in your mind that really meant something to you?
You know, each time for the Global Days of Listening and for some of the other conversations that we've had, there's been another person or a group of people from a different country that is occupied. May I go back and talk about
Surely.
A previous one that someday we'll bring that one onto the show, but one of the gentlemen that volunteers at the Rachel Corrie Children's Center in Rafah, Palestine, who's talked with them a number of times, this is now 3 months ago at the Winter Solstice Global Day, and he had just lost a friend, was very sad and really didn't want to talk to them. I had said, well, I know that they're looking forward to talking to you, and he said, oh, well, okay. So as they were talking from Afghanistan, they were consoling him and helping him. The Afghan youth were helping this young man in Rafah. He still was very sad and left the conversation. There were very few people on the call, but there was a woman from the Democratic Republic of Congo who had been through those horrors some years before, and a friend that she met kind of in the peace and reconciliation effort who was a boy soldier in Rwanda. And the two of them were on the phone. And now they are talking to the young people in Afghanistan. And she is consoling them about some of the sadness that they continue to go through. And then as she finishes her, I'm with you, the young man from Rwanda says 3 or 4 sentences, very powerful. I understand that what you're going through is horrible, and that there are nights when you're not sure if you'll wake up in the morning. There are nights when you're not sure that you want to wake up in the morning, and then you wake up and you realize somewhere along the way that you still have dreams, that you still have wants for your life and for your family. And I encourage you to keep those dreams, and I will dream with you. So this time, for the Global Day of Listening, they had a half an hour to talk with a man from Baghdad and learn more about what's happening in Iraq and what had happened in Iraq.
Matter of fact, didn't we catch him? He was on a bus?
Yes, the first
beginning?
time, yes.
Yeah.
And he commented that, you know, I can't talk for too long. I'm speaking English, and it's not always safe to be speaking English as where I'm traveling. He was leaving Najaf to go to Baghdad. So when they did get back together again, it was just amazing to hear how attentive the Afghan people were to what had happened in Iraq. They, of course, know about it, but they hadn't heard this sort of full story. So the solidarity, I guess, between countries and how that helps for people to be able to listen to one another from in these occupied countries, that's, you know, if that was all we were doing, I'd do it all night again.
Well, Douglas, one of the activities for the International Day of Peace, which doesn't seem altogether that far away, it was September 21st, you had giant cloth doves circle the world, and that world was outlined on the ground in Heritage Park. I know because I was the videographer standing way up on top of a building taking the picture. But what made that very special was including a song, Circle the World, that was composed by Dana Lyons from Bellingham, and he sung that with Jane Goodall. And I think that would be appropriate for us to just to see a little clip of.
Can I mention a little bit?
Before we see that clip, go ahead.
It's a good example of how things have kind of evolved between the people around the world working on this. The Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers have done something each of the last 3 International Days of Peace. So and they go up into the Hindu Kush Mountains to do this. They've invited internationals to join them. And so along the way, they've talked about doing something with a dove, and we were able to make contact with Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots program, which is a youth program. And that program, among other things, celebrates the International Day of Peace with doves, like in fact the one that you see behind you. And so they made a miniature version of this, and we made the version that's on the website for Roots and Shoots. And so, you know, if we hadn't talked to Bernice in Singapore, and if she hadn't gotten us excited, and someone we both know very well, Jody Tiller Mackey, hadn't decided, well, we're only going to make 3 of these doves and fly them around our own globe, where the words for peace were placed, as you'll see in the video that you took.
Well, matter of fact, when we say the world, there was actually 2 worlds, because there was an inflatable world.
Oh, that's right.
A huge inflatable world at Heritage Park. And then Dr. Zoltan Grossman laid out the entire world on cloth, and then the people actually circled that with the doves. And let's watch that video clip.
Yes, finally, sure.
That was a beautiful shot there.
And a very nice song, yes.
What if we could circle the world, flying peace doves beneath the sun? Giant 20-foot wings of fabric that are handmade by everyone. Once a year we circle the world, saying, ain't it time to bury the guns? Our time has come, and we have begun to circle the world. It's a dream and it's a vision, it's a prayer that we may see. when every person, every creature will be treated with dignity, when every war will be a memory we never shall repeat. Our time has come and we have begun to circle the world. What if we could circle the world, flying peace doves beneath the sun? Giant 20-foot wings of fabric that are handmade by everyone. Once a year we circle the world, saying, ain't it time to bury the guns? Our time has come and we have begun to circle the world. It's a parade and it's a party, giant puppets with many drums. It's a song with many rhythms that is sung in many tongues. It's a giant snake dance in every country beneath the sun. Our time has come and we have begun to circle the world.
Douglas, this is the Veterans Hour, and many, well, a number of our members from VFP 109, the Rachel Corrie chapter, participated in this event. There's a video clip coming up that shows Mark Fleming painting peace banners, and we have some of the peace banners that are in front of us here. And Zahid Chowdhury spoke to friends in the flood-stricken area of Pakistan. And I remember just the joy that Naimat and Zahid had in being able to Skype into Naimat's relatives, actually, and then having these children speak encouraging messages to the youth in Pakistan. I mean, to the youth in...
well, the youth in Afghanistan.
They were in Bamiyan at that time, yeah.
Right. I know we have this clip and we can show
that. It's just a short-minute clip, so let's watch that now.
Okay, good.
I will translate what they're saying. This is all the youth in flood-stricken areas, and they're saying peace and they're saying peace in the world. Let there be peace in the world. Let there be peace in the whole world. This is the voice of Pakistani youth. Let there be peace in the whole world. Let there be peace in the whole world. Let there be peace in the whole world. The voices, as you can hear, of Pakistani youth who have just gone through a tormented period of flood and terrible times.
And now a little background about that one. Naimat's family had not been as affected by the floods in Pakistan as some of their surrounding neighbors. And so some of the kids that you heard in this video were actually from families that had tucked in with other families so that they could be dry. This was 6 months ago, just a month and a half shortly after the floods in Pakistan. And so you may have noticed how Zahid and Naimat are looking at the camera, and they knew they couldn't stop the kids from saying, "We want peace. Let there be peace.
Let there be peace in the whole world."
Yes. Yes. And the adults that were in Sindh couldn't stop them either. So that sort of allegory of young people wanting it so much that they drown out the adults is really a part of what this international listening to young people is about.
Well, I know it was a real joy. And I know water has been an issue in both of those countries. And recently, you had an opportunity to go through some training to build biosand water filters. And as a result of that training, Naimat, who was in this video clip, and yourself are planning on a trip. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about that? Because it's more than just going into people that you've seen and talked with on Skype.
Well, Naimat's family is in a part of Pakistan where it will be very helpful for people they know to have these biosand water filters. Naimat also is a student here in the States in business, learning about creating businesses. And so our plan is to begin in Pakistan and then go over to Afghanistan, where there is also a need for clean water. In fact, about 50% of the people in Afghanistan need clean water. And so we'll start with the Pakistan trip and do the training there and make it possible for someone there to turn it into a small business and then do the same thing in Afghanistan.
And for those that may be interested, www.friendlywaterfortheworld.com. That's the longest URL I've seen.
Is it a .com or
yes,
is it a
it's a .com.
It is, okay.
friendlywaterfortheworld.com has a lot of the information and the training manuals, etc. And these biosand water filters remove about 99% of the pathogens that cause much of the sickness and deaths in the countries due to not having clean drinking water. And I know that this will be an exciting opportunity for you not only to help people with the biosand water filters, but then to follow up with Pakistan and our Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers soon there. Douglas, Kathy Kelly, tell us about her, because she's fairly well known in a lot of circles, and maybe our viewing audience heard the name but don't really know much about her.
I would imagine that some of them are familiar with her work. I guess the short story is that she's been active going to these other countries, in Iraq at the beginning of the Shah period, and prior to that, bringing medical supplies over during the, when there was the
embargoes,
well, the that whole time period that that was shut off from the rest of the world, and she has been in Palestine during the when the caste-led efforts were going on, and in many other parts of the world where people are fighting with one another. Kathy's been nominated 3 times for the Nobel Peace Prize. She discovered the Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers through these Skype conversations. We had set one up, or helped one be set up. I guess that's important to say, that we're just facilitating people communicating with each other. And the Witness Against Torture group in Washington, D.C. was listening, was having a conversation with the Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers, and someone asked them if they'd ever heard of Dr. King. Well, and the boys were able to quote right away, and Kathy, who was a little, they were, I think, fasting as well, she was kind of like, oh, this is sweet, and then all of a sudden, whoa, these young people in Afghanistan can quote Dr. King. And she really, she's been there 3 times. She's coordinated a contingent of about 28 people now. The last few are are coming into Kabul, and the big group has just recently left Kabul.
Matter of fact, she just wrote, and I picked up this, that 27 international peace activists, and most of them were from the United States, came to Kabul to hear from the youngsters whom they've begun to regard as their brothers and sisters, and to speak about their experiences living in this country that's ravaged by warfare for the past 3 decades. She also said, and this is an interesting one for our veterans that are out there, there's virtually no discussion about the exorbitant cost of this war. She went on to say over $385 billion to date. An additional $120 billion is expected this year. We've had 2,300 U.S. Casualties, tens of thousands of Afghan casualties, and we've heard from our Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers how their relatives have been killed in the war too. A lot of civilian deaths and over 10,000 U.S. wounded. And even, she mentioned, 460 suicides by U.S. soldiers. What I'm wondering is, in the multiple conversations that you've had with the Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers, what are they asking the United States to do or not to do?
You know, they really have been Gandhian in their approach. They, you know, as Gandhi didn't point the finger at the British and you know, accuse them or anger them with his comments, they've not pointed the finger and said, bad, bad, bad U.S. They've made their implications about what we're doing, but they know that you can't bring people to the table to talk if you're dissing them or you're so what they've invited people to do through these videos that they've made, 133 of them now, is to learn about what life is like in Afghanistan. And so they're inviting people to these conversations so that there's a relationship. And when you build a relationship, then understanding develops. And once you understand that you really are the same in so many ways, then you can't fight each other. They do feel it's time for the U.S. and the NATO forces to lay down their arms. And they've done a lot of talking with the women of Afghanistan and the organizations that support the women of Afghanistan. And so they realize it's going to be very difficult for them, and that groups of Taliban, I do want to make at least a quick comment about this, the Taliban. When we do that in this country, and when the media continues to call the Taliban out, it further demonizes a people. There are groups of Taliban, and many of them have a religious belief that is by most Muslims considered very fringe. And so they would like the forces to leave their looking more and more practically at the political situation. That in order for it to remain stable, there may need to be a bona fide peacekeeping force of some sort. You know, the UN peacekeeping forces do have a history that's mixed. And they've been working with Ramazan Bashardost, who was the third place finisher in the election for the president of Afghanistan a year and a half ago. And he's basically a peace candidate, yet he knows that when the NATO forces leave, it's something, you can't just leave a vacuum. But we could at least begin talking about living without wars, and that's what they're doing. It's emphasizing, imagine with us what it would be like in Afghanistan if we could live without wars.
In this past International Day of Listening, I was struck as a veteran, an Army veteran from the Vietnam era, that we had some veterans today who served in Iraq, but we came across 1 or 2 veterans who served in Afghanistan. And I believe they had an opportunity to talk with the Afghan
Jacob, yeah. Many people were asleep in the United States because it was that time of day. Well, Brock, Blake, and Jacob all have talked with them at one time or another.
Douglas, you have in your hand an interesting,
yes.
I'm not sure what to call it. It's cloth. It has some words on it that I don't quite recognize, but I'm sure you do, and we'll tell our viewing audience what it is.
Well, this kind of goes back to the beginning of your program today. Several years ago, with other Veterans for Peace, we created a memorial to the civilians of Iraq. Rowan Suleiman was she was an 8-month-old girl who lost her life in the first year, in the first couple months of the invasion of Iraq. And she was in her living room crawling over a piece of metal that her brother brought home. It turned out to be a small bomb. And we've continued to add to the Iraq Memorial, and some college youth in California decided it was time to add Afghanistan casualties to the Memorial to Life. And so there are now 170 Afghan memorial markers, and we'll part of closing the show today, it sounds like your staff's going to be able to show the markers of the 9 boys who lost their lives collecting wood.
And tell us what this URL is for the Iraq Memorial to Life.
www.iraqmemorialtolife.org. Yeah, there's information there about it.
We're just in the last few minutes of our program tonight, and we've touched mainly on pretty much all of the statements that Veterans for Peace is standing behind. What would you like to tell in conclusion to our viewing audience from your heart? What would you like them to know, Douglas?
Well, I think it's so important for people to experience this conversation that I would invite the viewers to keep their eye on. Perhaps we can put it on the screen at the end, because there are like 4 different websites that are carrying the clips of the Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers and information about the ongoing conversations. There'll be an increasing of the programs between schools and the Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers. A couple people have stepped forward to help coordinate that. There'll be an increase in interfaith organizations talking with the Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers. And the Global Days of Listening are now more than the solstice and the equinox. We certainly will have a big 24-hour one for the summer solstice, but stay tuned at the Global Day of Listening website and these other websites for any other opportunities, because when you have a chance to ask a question and then all of a sudden they're asking you a question, well, what do you do, Dennis? You know, what's your life like? And some of their questions, this last time, a woman I think she was in the States. Oh yeah, she was in Oregon, in Salem, Oregon. I think it was Abdul Ali asked, so what's the security, how is security in Salem? And they've also asked, how would you feel if you were paid, $2,500 for your father who was killed? Just, a question that they face. how is security really where they live, and how does it feel when you receive a couple $1,000s for your loved one that's been killed by accident. I think that I'd just like to see people become part of this and then encourage others, because particularly if all the young people have a chance to hear each other, they won't be able to hurt each other.
We've talked about increasing the public awareness towards the cost of war. And we've had the opportunity in this program to get a better look at how this war affects the youth, particularly in Afghanistan. And I want to encourage people to watch this program, which comes to you on Channel 22, now on Mondays at 5 p.m., just also on Thursdays at 8 p.m. And then later on, we put the program on Blip TV, and you can get the program or names of the different shows by going to our website, www.vfp109rcc.org. I have to remember that one, but we'll put that up so that everyone can see that. Douglas, I want to thank you for taking the time for coming. And if there's any video clips that we might have missed, then...
well, there are a couple things. In fact, if it's okay with
please
you,
do. We have about a minute and a half. Go for it. Well,
the Global Day of Listening website, the People's Journey website, Our Journey to Smile, Live Without Wars, the Voices for Creative Nonviolence, your website. I think these will all be places where there'll be links to the small video clips that people will want to see and want to share with others. So I'd encourage people to spread the word. Let others in this country hear directly from the Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers and their partners. There's several, the Open Society group where some of the younger women and girls that we saw in the early video with the blue scarves, and Afghans for Peace. They also are an important partner in this.
Well, let me thank you in Dari for this Tashakur.
VCR Zert Tashakur. Thank you very much.
Soldiers speak out. We have a duty to all children and to their futures.